Hello, friend. The mystical American Patriots Society is transmitting to you from beneath 4 million cubic feet of solid granite, in the burning heart of the Yellowstone caldera. This is a variety program for normal sandwich-eating Americans with some concerns about living in a deranged, post-Christian technocracy. So, keep your third eye on the sky and your ear to the ground, as Sumo and Smokestack connect your main brain vein to a higher plane. Are you ready? Stand by.
Woo! 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 Ah! Woo! 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 This is actually an incantation. Woo!
What are you incanting?
No, I'm just trying to. I was trying to up the energy.
Okay, so it's like
I'm a little sleepy, so I decided I'd just start screaming.
You can go to bed on time?
No, I never go to bed on time.
Where's your dedication, son?
I've never been to bed on time in my whole life. I'm always just up too early and tired. That's the way God intended it.
How many hours of sleep did you get last night?
3. I don't know.
That is unacceptable.
Look. That's the way you run a NIMBY army. Our army of NIMBYs and NEETs.
What are those?
NIMBY, not in my backyards.
Okay.
And NEETs are not in employment, education, or training.
Not employment, education, or training. What does that mean?
Just someone that lives in their mom's basement is a NEET. Not in employment, education, or training. NEET and NIMBYs. Those are our army that we will take on the global digerati technocracy.
How is not in my backyard going to be useful?
Because you can make, as long as if you just convince them it's going to happen in their backyard, they're against it. And they're very powerful. Very powerful. When we mobilize, which we will mobilize, and our army of people in 1978 Cobra Class B Dodge camper vans descends upon Silicon Valley. And they crown you and I kings with Himalayan pink salt. And gooseberry oil just dripping off our heads.
Sounds savory.
We will. That's when we will have arrived.
Okay.
We will turn the tide.
I mean, I'm definitely a monarchist sympathizer. So, you know.
Yeah. As long as we are the monarch.
I think I would make a pretty decent co-king.
Yeah. Well, we would decide who was king and who was co-king by drawing lots.
Oh, okay. I assumed I was co-king because I don't have that cult leader sort of vibe that you do.
That's true. It's true, but I don't. Yeah. I think I could be I'll be the king of the NEETs and you be the king of the NIMBYs. And we'll have.
I feel like this is just going to lead to civil war later.
It will, but it's creative destruction.
Okay.
But yeah, how was your new year? Did it start off good?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Okay. I went to bed early and got lots of sleep.
Did you? I didn't do that. Did you? Does it feel like we're in the 20s? It feels a little weird. Like all of our predictions about what would happen in the 2020s were just awful.
Totally not even close.
I don't have a hoverboard. I don't have a robot body. I don't have laser hands.
Yep.
I can't talk to my wall and make pasta. I guess I sort of can talk to Alexa, but I don't have Alexa because I'm not retarded.
Alexa doesn't make pasta.
She should though. That would make like all she can do is tell you the time and act as a Google. It's a dumb thing.
Did you hear about the lady that had Alexa to tell her to kill herself?
No.
Stab herself in the heart. Yeah.
But I like that.
It's a thing. Yeah. Amazon's like, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. But woo!
Yo!
Freaking up. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. So I see, being the 2020s, the new year, I thought we needed to start it off with some goals.
Yeah.
And resolutions for the show, not for us personally, because I feel we're both pretty close to operating it perfect here.
Right. Sure. Yeah. It's time to export that.
But for the show, and I realized, as I wrote these down, I thought some of these may take longer than 1 year.
Okay.
So I'm giving us the fullness of the 2020.
Okay. Now, can I rule out a couple things before you start?
Sure.
I just don't want there to be any plagues involved, like in the 1820s and the 1920s.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. No plague-related resolutions. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Number one, this show needs at least 78% penetration into the overland long-haul trucker demographic.
Okay, long-haul truckers. I bet they're a big podcast-consuming population.
Yes, and they're like the veins of America.
Right.
That's where all the stuff that we all buy from China flies around.
Do you think they transport secret knowledge around through different societies?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
okay.
I believe there are trucker secret societies.
Okay.
Yeah, easily.
How do they play in with the hobos? Like the Hobo King and the.
I think the hobos are more in league with the brothers and sisters of the Rail Association.
Okay. Do they?
I don't think the trucker. I think the hobos are rail friendly. They don't ride the interstate.
Okay. Gotcha.
If you're homeless on the interstate, you're something else. You're not a hobo.
Okay. I didn't know if there was like an alliance.
No.
Okay.
No.
I'd prefer truckers to hobos if we're gonna pick one.
Yeah. But that's what we need. We need at least 78.6 somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Of every single long haul trucker in America needs to be listening to the show.
Okay.
That alone is goal number one.
Awesome.
This is a show for truckers, NIMBYs, and NEETs.
Okay.
Primary. Those are our three target demographics.
So a NEET is what now? Say that again.
Not in employment, education, or training. NEET.
So basically, useless people.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I mean that in a nice way.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Those people are where all the creativity comes from because they have all the time and they're bored.
Oh.
If we can just get those people to not watch porn for a little bit.
Okay.
They will produce so much goodness.
Okay.
Bubble up.
So we got to mobilize the NEETs. Okay.
And the NIMBYs and the truckers. But the truckers first.
Well, I feel like NIMBYs are probably busy already.
Truckers are the first among equals.
Okay.
All right. Number two, we have to, at some point, live broadcast this show from outside beneath the northern lights as they're going on overhead. That's resolution 2.
That's a tall order. We're doing that this year?
Well, I gave us the fullness of the 2020s.
Okay.
But we may can finish that one this year.
Okay, so these are decade resolutions.
Right, because it's a new decade, not just a new year.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
We have to outside in the snow, northern lights overhead.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, you could do that in like northern Canada and Alaska, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have to go too far.
Well, we'll get a fishing cabin up in northern Canada and we'll go fishing and record the show. Record a few shows.
Yes.
That'll be great.
We have to do it in the winter so we make sure there's the lights.
Okay. So we'll be ice fishing.
And then 3, we have to plaster America with billboards of sayings of the saints and mystics. Is it quotes? And put them up everywhere. Like, you're driving down the interstate, and then Saint Simon the Stylitis is just boom in your face, talking about why he's up on a pillar.
Okay.
For 30 years. Right?
He was up on a pillar for 30 years?
Yeah, Saint Stylus. It could have been a little bit of a prideful thing. I don't know, but he was a hermit. But he had fame, as a hermit.
Okay.
People kept coming to him, and he didn't like it. So finally, there was like the remains of an old Roman thing nearby.
Yeah.
He just climbed up on top of the pillar and made himself a little platform. And he was like, "Go away, everybody! I'm going to stay up here."
I would think a cave would be better for that.
Well, yeah, I don't know why he chose this, but it didn't really help because then he's like more famous, right? Because he's like the weirdo sitting on top of a pillar.
I feel like this was a little reverse psychology on his part.
Could have been, but he apparently climbed up on this pillar and didn't come down for like 30 years till he died.
Were people throwing him food?
Yeah, he had a local village boy. Yeah, as you do. I mean, when you live on top of a thing, you get someone to come bring you food.
Okay. It's like one of those environmental protesters that chains themselves to a tree.
Yeah.
You gotta have a lot of support infrastructure for that.
Yeah. He built, and apparently his pillars kept getting bigger. Like, he'd be like a 20-foot pillar, and then people would climb it, so we made a 50-foot pillar.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah.
It's industrious.
So that's 3. We're going to have the billboards. And then 4 is, of course, to lead a revival of mounted archery and sumo wrestling.
Mounted archery and sumo wrestling.
Yes.
Okay.
Those are the 2. Those are our 4 resolutions, and we will accomplish them this decade. Probably all this year, but I'm going to give us more time.
What % of the population has to practice either mounted archery or sumo wrestling in order for that to be considered a revival? I'm just trying to put some quanta on this here.
Well, I mean, women shouldn't do it, obviously.
Right.
Because that would be silly.
Okay.
So and so we're really just going for the younger guys, say between 13 and 27.
Okay. I'm already aged out, dude.
I know. We're old. And then
so we're just gonna be standing there with like whips.
No, we're helping them. We're not part of the demographic. Like the older people. Listen, if you're a truck driver and you want to do sumo wrestling, I encourage you, even if you're old. But this is primarily for this is like scouting.
Okay.
To do scouting,
but with less perverts. With
less hand signals and weird uniforms. Okay. I mean, I guess wearing a big diaper is a weird uniform.
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty comfortable. You know that stuff? It's like a boat sail. It's very thick. I don't know if you've ever worn one.
No, I've not worn a sumo diaper.
I know. Yeah. That's one of the things that should be maybe a 5th resolution. I have one. I'll send it to you. It's very heavy. It's like 20 pounds.
So why not just wear some? It's like a handle, right?
Yeah, it's like a handle. It's like you give the because it was either that the Japanese were like, well, we can either have like a thing that we can wear that we can grab on, or we can just be naked, and that's a little gay.
Yeah.
Now you could argue that wearing a diaper is slightly more gay.
I don't know. I feel like naked wrestling's probably gayer.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, the Greeks did invent gayness, and they invented wrestling too. So. Probably.
Well, we'll thank the Japanese for adding their contribution.
Yeah. So those are our 4 resolutions, and I'm quite confident that we can accomplish it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yes.
I'm down. Let's do it.
So what are we going to talk about today? You're going to talk about some herbs and eating rocks.
Herbs, man.
And I'm going to talk about theory of soul.
Okay.
Wrestling. And then we're going to talk about, I'm going to explain to everybody how to be an astrologer. Yikes. Or how not to be an astrologer.
Okay.
Or how to be one. Either one.
Okay.
I'm going to explain how that all works and what it's about. Because a lot of people think it's about like looking up your horoscope in a newspaper. That's all. That doesn't make any sense.
It's phony baloney, huh?
But yeah, most of it.
Okay, that sounds exciting. Well, why don't we start with your theory of soul? Right.
So this was this comes out of me looking around at a lot of people who were experiencing despair.
Despair. Okay.
Despair. They were despairing because of their, let's say, their habitual sinful things they were doing. Right. Okay. They believe in God. They want to do right, but then they're like, It's like Paul. It's like Paul's like, hey, look, the good I want to do, I don't do. The bad things I don't want to do, that I do. What's going on?
Yeah, that's a despairing feeling.
Right, and that's that. And so I wanted to, there's a lot of, I think that's driving most of the things today. Like, a lot of the current predicament started around homosexuality and stuff. There's a lot of people that were like, well, I've got this thing.
Yep.
It won't go away. And then they just despair about it, and they say, "Well, I just won't worry about it." And then it snowballs.
Right.
So we got to have a thing about that. And I'm going to come to this in a circumlocuitous manner.
Okay.
Because I have to craft the theory first.
Okay.
Right. Do you remember the parable of the weeds and the weeds and the wheat?
Those are
the weeds and the wheat and the tares.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. So in this parable, there's a good guy. He throws out seed into his field. It grows into wheat, right? Okay. But then when he goes to bed, Along comes the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
He throws bad seed in the field.
Yep.
Right, and then his servants come harvest. They're like, "Hey, what's up? There's all these weeds. Where'd this come from?"
Right.
And the master's like, an enemy did it. Right. Okay, so what was the solution? They're like, "Hey, should we pull it up?" And he's like, "No, why?"
Because there's valuable wheat in there.
Right, and you don't want to pull up if you're pulling up the weeds, you're going to pull up the wheat too.
Yep.
Because they've been growing together, right?
Right.
They're right next to each other. And unlike many parables, Jesus actually tells us what this one means.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Look, the wheat is the righteous, the weeds are the unrighteous.
Yep.
And the reason God doesn't just cleanse the world of the unrighteous right now is because doing so would also pluck up a lot of the good people."
Okay.
Makes sense, right?
Yep. So he's going to let them come to maturity.
Right. And then at the end of the world, when he just harvests everyone and he's going to separate them out,
Mm-hmm.
weeds and wheat, sheep and goats, some go in a fire, some don't, right?
Gotcha. Yep.
Okay. Now, now I'm going to take Jesus's interpretation. I'm going to jump forward or backwards. I'm not sure which way we would go. From the populace level into the level of the individual.
Okay.
Okay. And I believe this is valid because of
This sounds like some as above, so below reasoning.
It is. It is.
Okay.
And that's good reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't like that reasoning, but that reasoning makes total sense because of fractal geometry.
Okay.
Right? The Mandelbrot set.
Okay.
You know about the Mandelbrot set?
No, but I know, generally as above, so below, whatever you see at the macro scale has a
right. So,
representation.
The idea of the universe being fractal in nature is simply that the same patterns repeat across different scales.
Okay.
Nature is self-similar across scales. So the reason an atom looks like a solar system, looks like a galaxy, is because there's this repeating pattern that happens at different scales of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's also why musical notes, right? You have a C here,
yep.
And you have a higher C. And so you can think of things as just being octaves of themselves.
Okay.
And that's the whole, I think that without that theory being true,
mm-hmm.
a lot of people, you say as above, so below, and they go, "Oh, you're a cultist," because they love that word. They love that phrase.
Oh, yeah.
But, heck, I throw up a cross to block your hexagram. No.
Yeah, man.
No, that's not. But that theory is also valid.
Okay.
Because without that being true, parables wouldn't make sense. The whole reason a parable can be a thing is because the way things operate on like a farm is in some way a smaller scale version of the same thing as the way things happen in your soul.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? And at some point, everyone's like, "We get it, Jesus. Things are like farming, But that's because farming, and then farming is like everything, and everything's like farming, and because it's a circle, right? It's not a circle.
Well,
it's a.
Couldn't it be they were an agrarian society and he was just trying to make useful metaphors?
Right. Yeah, but the reason metaphors are possible is because of self-similarity.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It has to be similar.
Mm-hmm.
That's why also you could make, if he was around today, you could make similar parables about how you code a computer.
Okay.
And they would still apply.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
All right. So there's that. So we're going to say, when you take that parable of the wheats and the tares and you look down at your own soul, you find the same situation. Right? You've got good things growing there and you've got bad things growing there.
Yep.
And they're growing side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what do you got to do? Like if you try to get right, there's some things you can pull up pretty easily. Like there's some weeds growing off to the side here, some poison ivy, some kudzu.
Yep.
And you can pull it up real quick and get the hatchet. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's some stuff that's growing pretty closer to some of your wheat, your virtues, right?
Yep.
So what do you do about that? Like that's a lot, because say you got a guy, he's trying to get his sex life in order, stop sleeping around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well if he stops that, there's a lot of genuinely good things tangled up in that, right?
Okay.
Like his social circle of friends that are actually his friends, the way he spends his time in relaxation, the way he probably has some relationships with women that he might actually marry one day that are based on this.
Yep.
Right. There's a lot of good in there tangled up with the evil.
Mm-hmm.
And so pulling up the evil becomes harder because you're ripping up good stuff also. It's not off to the side.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, then you go down even further, and there are some things which you're just tangled up right at the roots.
Uh-huh.
Right? There's some things which, like, your whole person is just like tangled around at the roots with some vice.
Okay.
Right? Might be sexual, might be anger, might be fear, might be, like I know a guy, ostensibly he would just be the picture of greed.
Okay.
Always hoarding money, right?
Yep.
But I've known him long enough. I know why. He, as a young child, he witnessed his grandfather die penniless and not be able to afford any health care. And he's operating out of a place of total fear that might happen to him.
Gotcha.
And that persists even though it's no longer conceivably possible because he has so much money that it would be incredibly unlikely that he would run out of it, right?
Right.
But the thing is still there down at the base.
Yep.
He can't get rid of it. So, what do you do about that kind of thing? That's what I want to talk about. Something like at the bottom.
Okay.
Right? Like, because a lot of the homosexuality comes from that too. Like they were sexually abused as a child.
Right.
Or something like that. And it's like, well, this is like at the foundation of who they are. What do you do?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You could be, and everybody's got something like that.
Fear and anxiety can come into that,
Fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, hatred. Also, I mean, I think people talk too much about the sex stuff.
Yeah.
Just because we forget all the other horrible sins.
Yeah, sure.
Which are, and of the 7 deadly sins, the sexual ones is the least deadly. Still deadly. But it's the least deadly.
Oh, okay.
Because it's at the highest, but that's another discussion. But yeah, so so in that I'm going to give everyone a quick technique for fighting such things, and then also just like a word of grace and comfort about it. Okay. So number 1, the technique, continuing the farm metaphor because things are fractal and things work the same way. If you can't pull it up, right? You've got something you've tried to stop doing, something you've tried to change. It has not worked for years. It probably won't work. Yep. What you do instead is you play to your strengths. So you got your good things growing, your wheat, your banana trees, your goji berry bush. Yep. Make those grow more. Give those more sunlight. So whatever you're actually good at doing that's good. Yep. Do that harder. Okay. Right? Spend time at that. And then that's like your good plants growing large enough they begin to choke out the weeds. I like that. And that actually does work. I found that if you like I can't change my behavior here, I will go and like spend some time actually doing service for other people. Yep. Or jump into something good like art or music or whatever. Yep. If you do that more, the vices begin to shrivel somewhat. Okay. All right, so you can't pull them up, but maybe you could just nurture the good thing that they're wrapped around instead. Okay. Right? Yeah. That is a simple technique, but it does work. And plants do compete with each other for resources. Yeah. And so does it's like the thing with the 2 wolves in your soul. I don't know. It's like the old saying, there's the 2 wolves, the white and the black one. Okay. And they're always fighting. Okay. And which one wins? The one you feed the most. Oh, gotcha. It's Native American. Okay. And, and I am Native American. I didn't know that. So I am. Yeah. Or the other one. We used to. I remember after that was a big saying in high school or middle school. Probably middle school when we were more juvenile, because people would go after someone had told us that in like one of those lectures at school where they go to the gymnasium and some guy talks to you about, America and not doing drugs. Right. He brought up the wolf metaphor. And then afterwards we were like, hey, there's 2 wolves inside of you. One is gay and the other's gay. You're gay. Like, ah, screw you, man. One is gay and the other's gay. No, but it is like that because there's these the same way that plants compete for resources fractally up or down. I'm not sure if your soul is up or down from plants, but the parts of you that are at odds are also competing for resources.
Right.
For your will, your time, your and if you deny one of them, they will begin to shrivel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that affect things like the way you spend your time in prayer? Like how do I change what I'm praying about, or does it affect that?
I just pray that God will take the things that you are capable of doing. It's like, okay, it's the same principle again, physical, because like in the physical, because everything is fractal. If you can't give up if you can't change your diet, you find it hard to stop eating cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
But you don't mind running, then just go running more.
Okay.
And then you will begin to get in shape regardless of the cheeseburgers, right?
Okay.
And so if your soul is messed up and you got something you can't stop doing, then just go do the exercise you can do and your soul will begin to get in shape again, right?
Okay.
Despite that problem.
Right. So this is sort of like focusing on leading a life of obedience rather than focusing on trying to save yourself, save your own soul.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I would just say, I'm just trying to get people there are legitimately, this is especially a problem for Catholics.
Okay.
The Catholics are like, well, Catholics legitimately think that through enough will and moral effort, and there's a lot of other Christians that think this too, and a lot of secular people also, you can expunge from yourself all the bad.
Right.
Never works. Right.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is I'm obeying, I guess, a life of obedience and faith, meaning, Christ is taking care of the destination of my soul. And so I'm just going to I'm going to trust that, and I'm just going to be obedient, and I'm going to look at the gifts he's given me and say, okay, here's my purpose. I'm good in this. I'm going to use this in an obedient way to glorify God, rather than on the other side try to, in a way, save my own soul by mastering the problem that I have, the deep rooted problem that I have, that intractable thing. I'm gonna stop trying, killing myself, try to fix that, but rather just use what I've been given.
Right, and this makes people have conniptions.
Okay,
because if you say this to and it is a double standard. I agree with them on this. If you say this to my friend with the problem of greed, because he has this fear of dying alone and poor, people are like, yeah. But if you say it to someone that's like gay, right, then people are like, but they legitimately may not be able to help this, right? So just play to your strengths again, and then to the issue of it not being intractable, you got to go with again what Paul said. This is where grace comes in. Yep. He's like, look, I had a problem I had a thorn in my soul. A thorn in my flesh. Remember this? And he says, 3 times I asked God to take it away, and God was like, no. My grace is sufficient. Why won't God take it away? Same reason, because it's tangled up at the bottom of who you are. If he pulls it up, a lot of the good stuff, it'll probably destroy you. Okay. Right? And this is why God does not remove all of our sins, right? It's for the concern of our greater person.
And we should have faith that, at the end of things, when the harvest occurs, those things are going to be separated on ourselves, and the good things are going to be saved. Right, correct. Yeah. And the personal harvest is when you die, basically. Yep. Right, and all these things that are attached to your flesh and all this, they get separated out. Yep. That's why you can't identify with them. That's the great sin. That's the great trap. Right. They try to make you identify with the weed wrapped around you. Right. Because then when that gets thrown into the fire, you want to follow it into the fire. Ah. Right? That's why you don't do that. That's the soul-killing move, is to identify with the evil within you. Yep. Acknowledge the evil within you. Say, I can't get rid of it right now. And it also probably supports some of my virtues. Right? Like it's the wraparound structure around the plant is supporting the plant, right? Right. It's probably is having some weird secondary side effects that are good. Don't identify with it. Don't say that that's me. Always acknowledge
that the evil within you is not you.
Right.
That way you won't follow it into the fires.
Is this kind of like a lot of I don't want to get into like unhelpful stereotypes, but like a lot of homosexuals would consider themselves to be sensitive and caring people, and it's like I mean, it's kind of a stereotype, but and it's probably not really true, but I don't know. Well,
but like
there's something there with like the positive aspects of that personality type.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
okay.
For one, almost all the greatest artists have been gay. Right?
I don't believe that for a second. That's propaganda.
No. It's like most of the painters. Most of the painters, at least. I don't know about I don't know about other ones, but like Michelangelo, almost certainly. Raphael, probably. Leonardo da Vinci, and I mean, there's a big question that the Mona Lisa may have been him as a woman, because he was really interested in that, right? And so there is a thing where like if you are more in touch with the feminine side, let's say, and a man is more in touch with the feminine side, it produces a certain kind of creativity.
Okay.
And so that is one of the virtues that is held up by a different vice, right?
Right.
And you just gotta acknowledge that, but like, okay, that's what it is. So and if you can't expunge things, grace is sufficient. Don't identify with your sin, and then just play to your strengths.
Okay.
You don't have to despair.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to despair about not being able to change things that you can't change.
Is it possible to practice this without having faith in Christ?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I don't think so
because
either.
I think without the grace element, you have to say that's the great gift of grace. Because if you say like, well, otherwise you're just left with doing one of two things, of just saying, well, I am evil, right? And this is what I am, or what the thing evil that I do is not actually evil, and therefore I'm good. And those are your two options.
Okay.
And only with Christ can you say, no, this thing I have problem is evil, but that in spite of that, I can be justified.
All right.
Right. That's my theory of soul, my plant-based theory of soul, which I thought was good for the day of plant-based medicine, which you're going to talk about.
This is just going to tie together so beautifully.
I know. This is why I need to be king of Silicon Valley in my camper van.
Especially we're not going to start it now, but the entangled virtue and vice of plant medicine, there's such a nice little pairing right there.
Well, let's just start it now then. Let's just go with it.
You want to? Oh, we're going to just throw the plan out the window.
You gotta go with it. You gotta dance with the cosmos.
You do here. I have people skills.
We have people skills.
We have people skills.
We do have people skills. We have all kind of people skills.
Well, then
I don't really have good people skills though. This morning I went out after my 3 hours of sleep and I talked with my Nigerian gas station manager.
Okay.
And he's a nice fella, but he can't buy the right size clothes. He's always wearing a pairing of pants that are too small and shirts that are too big.
That's kind of the thing over there, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
In Nigeria?
Yeah, it's big, boxy shirts.
Skin-tight pants and a giant shirt.
Well, I don't know about the skin-tight pants, but I know that the giant shirts is kind of a thing.
Okay.
They don't have the same, like, male form pyramid-based aesthetic.
I won't culture it for.
Okay. Which is funny because I would say the average person over there has more of that, broad shoulder, narrow waist, archetypal male aesthetic, but they don't play to it in their mode of dress, which is interesting to me.
Right. That's because they live in the continent of pyramids, so they look more triangular.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Is that like the stripy goat dealy?
Yeah, that's like Europeans look like Stonehenge, and people in Africa look like pyramids.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what Asians look like. Panda bears, maybe.
Well, we'll have to explore that in another segment.
Yeah, if you took that in isolation, I don't know what Asians look like. It's like I've never seen one.
Okay. You've never seen an Asian? You need to get out more.
I've never, you know what I realized? I've never seen a homeless Asian.
No, they're too industrious of people for that.
Yeah.
Well, no, like opium guys. I guess they live in the den. The opium den.
Okay, let's talk about your herbalism, because it's all fractal. That's the message of today. It's all the same thing.
Yes. Okay, I'm not gonna say that this show is as above, so below.
It is that,
but it kind of tastes like that.
That's just because that phrase has been tainted by people that think everything is a Masonic plot.
So we're gonna reclaim it from Aleister Crowley.
Yes,
that's not that doesn't belong to you, Aleister.
It doesn't. It began as above, so below. Began as from Christian alchemists back when alchemy wasn't so weird.
Okay.
And when it was just proto-chemistry.
Uh-huh.
And they had that idea, and then after alchemy got abandoned because we figured out it didn't really work that well.
Right.
Aleister Crowley comes along and is like, man, it's mine. You know, with his gay lamb alien visitor in the night. I don't know if you know about Lamb, but
anyway.
I've
heard about him.
Yeah. So I'm taking it back from Aleister Crowley.
Jay-Z's into Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, I may even take back the tarot deck. That's how offensive I'm going to be against Aleister Crowley.
You're going to take it back.
Take it back.
All right, we'll talk about that in our segment in astrology and divination. Okay, so today's people skill is quote unquote herbal medicine. And I say quote unquote because I think that is a stupid name that has been totally spoiled. So from here on out, we're going to talk about plant/mineral medicine until I come up with a better name.
Yeah,
because the whole discipline needs a renaming desperately. Because the hippies and the LSD heads have totally spoiled the whole pot.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Okay.
I think that, again, going with our NIMBY army, the mommy bloggers, who are the premier shock troops of the NIMBYs, mommy bloggers have sort of taken over herbalism. And there's a lot of overlap between me and mommy bloggers.
Okay.
You know, like they're all into holistic foods and eating sage brush to cure your dropsy or whatever.
Dropsy. Okay, but at the same time I'm going to back up. I want to do a little history before I start ranting about the way it's practiced today. I want to do a little history on American medicine. Okay. So the FDA was established around 1900 and over the decades has started exercising more and more control over the practice and the making of medicine. So now today it costs, I don't know. Why don't you take a guess? How much do you think it costs to develop and field a new pharmaceutical? Most of this is going to be tied up in FDA required testing and so forth.
Oh, I should know this answer because I know a guy that runs a pharmaceutical research company. He talked about this to me, but I don't know this answer. I'm going to guess $40 million.
Not even close.
Was I way too much?
Way too little.
$800 million.
$870 million is the average cost to field a drug.
Absurd.
It is absolutely absurd. When through most of human history, it didn't cost any money. It didn't cost any. It was a free thing, and what we've done is make it impossibly expensive. But that's only key fact number one in my explanation of the history. No.
Like poor guys. You haven't.
I'm gonna end that real soon. Okay. So the second key fact that you have to understand in the history of Western medicine is that, and this is kind of a duh fact here, but only FDA approved drugs can be prescribed or marketed to treat diseases. Okay?
Yeah.
So there's a limit, and it costs $870 million to meet that standard. Okay?
Right.
Now, the only way that a drug company or a local medicine man, can recoup the cost of getting their product FDA approved is by publishing a patent, right?
Okay.
So chemical patents in America run for 20 years. And so the drug company says, okay, we're going to make this thing. It's got to be patentable, right? So that we can, over the next 20 years after we field the drug, recoup our costs of $870 million and then turn a profit on this drug, because once it goes generic, there's no more money to be made, because you know, the actual pill itself, just the raw materials and the production, is cheap, man. 15 cents a pill or less. I mean, it's all R&D. That's everything you're paying for in these ridiculous costs. Well, FDA.
Once there's like an equate version of Viagra, the train's over.
Exactly. That's why they got to keep making new pills.
Right. You know, I feel like an equate version of Viagra would be very good for our target demographic, though.
Okay. So like Value Right Viagra?
Yeah, Value Right Viagra. I feel like that would be huge with truckers.
Okay. I mean, that I could see some problems arising from that, but we'll set this aside for now.
No offense. That's meant as a positive.
So, okay. Here's the fourth key fact that you have to understand that's going to make the whole situation make sense in America.
Okay.
And that is, chemicals readily found and available in nature cannot be patented. They must be synthesized as a new chemical identity by the patentor.
Okay.
So, in order to recoup that $870 million, you have to be able to patent it. Right? You cannot patent anything found in nature because it's already out there. It's in the prior art. It's already out there.
Right. It's prior art of the plants.
So, therefore, plant medicine isn't used. It's not because it doesn't work. Because if you go out there, especially in other countries, they actually do like government-funded research on plant medicine constantly. Yeah, and there's a whole body of work out there. Yeah, the Germans do it, the Russians do it, the Chinese do it, Indians do it.
Maybe the only thing the Germans have ever done that's correct.
They do it in Mexico.
Right. Yeah.
Right across the border. But we don't, American doctors and the pharmaceutical industry don't touch any of it because they can't make the money back on the FDA approval.
Right.
So, and that's seriously, I didn't believe this forever. I thought plant-based medicine was stupid. It's a bunch of hippie crap.
That's because you've been propagandized.
Forever. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And only in the past few years did that click over, and I realized the con here. And it's all about patent law and FDA regulations, making anything but something synthesized in a lab able to be profitable.
Right.
So the FDA has put plant medicine and mineral medicine out of business. And this whole thing started when I was working on a project at work involving boric acid. Okay. And boric acid is a pretty common mined product. All right. It's not. Right. There's a lot of it out there. It's very cheap. You can still, in a lot of pharmacies, you could buy a bottle of boric acid for 25 cents, 65 cents, something like that. I mean, it costs nothing. But there was nothing on the bottle about how to use it. It just says boric acid, USP. That's all you got. So why do they sell it? So it turns out. I don't know. Well, it turns out it is an incredible antibacterial. Okay? Totally safe. For example, I started this whole journey experimenting on my cat. My cat has like cat herpes, would get eye infections, and I was reading all about boric acid at work. I know. I was reading all about boric acid at work, and I started making just a simple boric acid solution and washing the cat's infected eye with it, and it would clear it up within like a day and a half. I mean, very rapid cure. So the more, and then I started talking to old guys. And like, boric, my mother, when I would get an ear infection, my mother would use boric acid to clear. And they think it's funny because it seems silly to them now, and they would laugh about how their mother would use boric acid instead of taking them to the doctor. When I said, well, did it work? And like, well, yeah, it did work. It's like, so why don't we use it anymore? Well, I don't know. And these are, I've had doctors do that exact same thing. And if you ask anybody over the age of 70 about boric acid, odds are their mother probably used it on them. So that started the whole thing. So I started researching boric acid medicine. I started buying books on natural sort of medicine. And one guy that I really liked is named Stephen Herod Bunner. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Stephen Herod Bunner. And he writes a lot of really interesting books about plant medicine. Now, he is a total hippie in the most annoying way. Gaia and psychedelics and all this stuff. and so
that's the crowd I talk to every day.
On the one hand, I love the guy because he's written these incredible books that are super helpful. He cites all this research that goes on in other countries. He he gets the papers translated or finds translations of them, and cites them in his work. Very thoughtfully written, very detailed, as if they were written by a PhD doctor. Right. Okay. I mean, he really has a high standard of the work he puts out. But on the other hand, he's off in La La Land hippiedom, where I don't want to be the custodians of plant and mineral based medicine, right?
Right. Because you don't want it to be like if you want to get herbalism, you got to go to someone that does crystal Reiki horse therapy.
Right. Yeah. I just want it's like the Lord made all these useful plants and minerals that are just sitting around on the ground.
Right.
And the knowledge is out there on how to use them to benefit the human person in many great ways.
And you don't have to use acupuncture to do it. You don't have to be like you don't have to go the full hog.
Right.
You can adopt a little bit of it, and you don't have to. Yeah.
But the way and the kind of the common Christian perspective on herbal medicine is basically it's inseparable from sorcery or what LSD and New Age and all all that Druidism.
Right.
And that's a real shame because we're missing out on a lot of stuff. And so if somebody were wanted to get started with plant and mineral based medicine, I would point them in two directions to start. One being boric acid and the other being ginger root. Okay?
Okay. Boric acid, you told me, is antibiotic.
Yep.
What does ginger root do for me?
Ginger root is spectacularly antiviral. Okay?
Okay.
To the point where you can be exposed to the flu. And this has happened in my household. And even start to get it. And if you'll make and Buhner has a great recipe for ginger juice or strong ginger tea. I mean, it's fiery hot, but you just pound this stuff for a day and it will knock out just about any virus you get exposed to. I mean, it's awesome.
Right.
And we were my kids are little kids in school and they're picking up all the germs, the whole bit. You get exposed to everything, and I was getting sick all the time.
Yeah, as I do every year that school starts.
Oh, it's miserable. But this past year, I've made some changes and I've incorporated a lot of plant-based medicine, ginger being a big central hub of that wheel of what I'm doing. And it's been a total new year for me as far as not getting viruses and colds and flu and all that junk.
Nice.
So, and there's a ton of it out there. So I would say start with Stephen Harrod Buhner, but just don't follow him down the hippie path.
Sounds like we need him on the show.
I would love to have him on the show.
when he comes on, I will braid my hair.
Okay.
And I will wear a crystal around my neck and a white robe.
Uh-huh.
And I will just go into it with him.
Well, I'm just. It's gonna drive me nuts though. I would have a hard time with it because him and it's just that's the culture that runs that owns this knowledge right now.
You have to
I gotta take it from them and say no.
Yes,
Christians. Yes. This is the domain of the church, and we're gonna own this.
Right. This is we are a militant. Radio program.
We're going to
take back Silicon Valley.
Yep.
We're going to take back camper vans.
Yep.
We're going to take back sumo wrestling.
Preach.
We're going to take back plant-based medicine. We're going to take back tarot cards. I don't know about that.
I don't know about tarot cards.
We're going to take back all of it. We're going to have billboards. Yes.
Yep.
This is a radio program, not a podcast.
Yep.
In my imagination, this is like going out across the airwaves. I know it's not. Yeah. One day it will.
One day it will. We'll be live.
I still consider I like because I'm a retro futurist.
Yep.
So I was into your latest purchase of like a really old radio.
Oh, that thing's awesome. Use it every day.
Yeah, I love old technology.
Well, let me before we get on technology, I want to end this segment with a quote.
Go for it. Is it from the same guy?
No, it's from a guy named Ivan Illich. Are you familiar with his work? Ivan Illich?
No, I'm not familiar. anyone named Ivan for anything.
Okay, so he wrote a book called Tools for Conviviality, which I bought. I'll give a little setup on this book. I bought this 4 or 5 years ago, and I started reading it. Tools for Conviviality, and I put it down because I'm like, this guy is a communist, and I ain't gonna read this garbage. And and then I realized, and it was published in '73. So this year I picked it up again. Because I kind of realized if you were going to get published in 1973, you kind of had to be a communist.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's just sort of was the atmosphere then. So he, and I started to read it again, and he's actually as critical of the outworkings of communism as he is of modern industrial capitalism. But his whole deal is we need to embrace modes of living and production that are pro-human, sort of in the Leon Crier idea of the way we work and the things that we live in should reflect the capacities of human being, so that we use our tools don't use us. So that's the Tools for Conviviality. So he's talking about medicine, and I'll just jump into this. Most curable sickness now can be diagnosed and treated by laymen. People find it so difficult to accept this statement because the complexity of medical ritual has hidden from them the simplicity of its basic procedures. It took the example of how a barefoot doctor in China, to show how modern practice by simple workers in their spare time could, in 3 years, catapult healthcare in China to levels unparalleled elsewhere. In most other countries, healthcare by laymen is considered a crime. A 17-year-old friend of mine, and this is funny, a 17-year-old friend of mine was recently hired for having treated some 130 of her high school colleagues for venereal disease. And what high school is she going to? Okay.
China's, yeah.
She was acquitted on a technicality by the judge when expert counsel compared her performance with that of the U.S. Health Service. Nowhere in the USA can her achievement be considered standard because she succeeded in making retests on all her patients in 6 weeks after their first treatment. Progress can mean growing competence in self-care rather than growing dependence.
Amen.
So I love that last sentence. Progress can mean growing competence in self-care rather than growing dependence on big industrial structures of the technocracy.
Yeah.
I don't need an army of priests in white lab coats to perform rituals on me with syringes and drugs that cost $870 million to make or whatever.
Amen. This show is anti-lab coat.
Yeah.
I won't go so far as say it's anti-reason, but maybe.
Well, it's just I'm so modern medicine is good at something.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as acute care, like if your spleen is exploding, they can do some really awesome work, to fix that for you. But as far as just making people generally well and healthy, they're the worst.
We only want to put out of practice general practitioners.
Yeah.
The rest of you are fine. But we are against general practice. No, not true. Well, we love you, doctors. We love you.
But just quit listening to the pharmaceutical reps for all your knowledge. I used to have a doc that would pull old medical books down and cite them when I would visit him and ask him a question. And I had so much respect for that guy. And he was driven to despair at the futility of trying to actually practice medicine in today's environment, because you got to churn patients so fast and the costs are so high that they just run you into the ground.
You spend 3 minutes with a patient and then move on, and then 40 minutes on paperwork for a patient. Yeah,
and it broke him because he wanted to do it well, and they destroyed him for it with this.
So that's why we are all
becoming.
All of you NEETs need to become herbalists.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great use of a NEET's time.
All NEETs become herbalists or truck drivers.
Just be careful out there, because something else in the herbal medicine community is they're very freewheeling, and they assume that you can properly identify plants. So I wouldn't start I wouldn't start harvesting your own plants until you get really good and confident with plant identification. Because a pine tree and a hemlock, look pretty similar. One will do some nice things for you, and the other will kill you.
Yeah, this was my problem with the mushroom community. For a brief period, I wanted to go like forage mushrooms for like cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And I would look it up, and I'd see the local mycology group, and like, yeah, just go out and do it.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, but aren't there some that are poisonous? Like, yeah, but you can tell those easy. Just
yeah. It's like just because it's easy for you.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, and so that's kept me from being a mushroom forager.
That's the virtue vice thing. It's like that open, free spirit of inquiry. Comes with the cost of you may actually kill somebody with your advice because you didn't systematically explain this to them,
right?
And you didn't take their ignorance into account.
Yes.
Yeah. So
see how it all tied together. Everything comes back to the mushroom.
Man, wait, what?
I was just channeling my Terrence McKenna there for a second.
Okay. Comes back to the mushroom.
I love him so much. I wish he was still alive. His voice alone was fantastic.
Strange person.
And I feel like he would agree with much of what we're saying.
Yeah.
Because especially on the topic of astrology.
Oh, man.
Because here's where we go now. Because I've taken some of this from his thought processes.
Okay.
Because again, right, it's the virtue vice thing. You know, when you're super high, you can have some good ideas.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes happen.
Yep.
Okay, so if I talk about astrology, what is the first thing that comes to Smokestack's mind, or maybe your group, maybe your church? Like if I came into your church, and was like, "Hey guys, what's your zodiac sign?" How would they feel?
I would consider that a form of mild Satanism.
Yeah. Right. But see, this is it's a problem because most people would. Most Christians would. Most Satanists would.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They both sort of agree on that. Like this is Satanist territory.
Yeah.
That's a lie. We're gonna charge in and we're gonna take it back. Or we're gonna take it back. I'm so
not sold on this. I just want to say
I know. I'm gonna and most of our listeners are not sold on it either.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the mommy bloggers. They're already there.
Are they? Is astrology big in mommy blogging?
Yes. Mommy bloggers, yes. But okay, so if astrology here's my opening statement. If astrology is wrong and divination is wrong, why is it in the Bible so much? Like in Genesis, he says, "Let the things of the heavens, the stars, be for signs and for seasons." Okay. How do you find Jesus? You're a magi astrologer that leads you to Christ.
Right.
How do you do divination? Well, like the apostles, they do a divination ritual, casting lots to choose the next apostle.
The casting lots thing always kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They cast lots to determine who had broken Saul's oath when Saul vowed that no one would eat, and his son Jonathan ate.
Yep.
If you remember that story. The high priest of Israel had the Urim and Thummim, which I can never pronounce.
You're right.
Remember that?
I know what you're talking about.
It's basically like throwing dice.
Yep.
Divination and astrology and a whole lot of the biblical numerology, I'm convinced, is astrology related.
Okay.
Like that, right? It's just all in there. Another one is when Jesus encounters the boy that keeps throwing himself in the fire, or the father of the boy.
Right.
Modern translations say that the father says, "My son has schizophrenia or epilepsy," right?
Mm-hmm.
What it actually says is moonstruck. He's a lunatic. Like Luna, moon. Like the father is claiming that this is because of the influence of the moon. And Jesus doesn't go, it's dumb. It's not the moon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he just goes to the house, right?
Okay.
So there's lots of biblical evidence for astrology being a thing. There's a lot more for divination practices, right? So how do we get to the conclusion that it was all either complete nonsense or a work of the devil.
I don't know. How did we get there?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
But I'm gonna lay out a theory for how it might be. And I am not an astrologer. I don't cast my horoscope. I don't understand it completely, but I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Okay.
The principal problem that people have with it is they can't imagine how it could work.
Mm-hmm.
So most people think it's nonsense. They think it's hocus pocus, right?
Okay.
Because they can't imagine how the stars could have any influence on our lives. So therefore, it's all just nonsense. On the other side, people that say, well, it works, but it works not because of the stars, but because demons and Satan are telling you the future and pretending that it's from the stars and tricking you.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
That's number two. Those are the two basic options.
All right.
That people that don't practice it or don't believe. And then there's the people that believe, oh yeah, it's just the stars. Okay. And I heard. Have you heard of Jimmy Akin?
No.
Catholic guy, bald, big red beard.
Okay.
And I don't want to dunk on Jimmy Akin because he's a fellow traveler in the weird.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about Bigfoot. One time and I was listening to him talk on astrology, and he said, well, it can't be real because the only thing we know that stars could have on us would be gravitational influences, and that's very weak. You know, he went for a very scientific answer. Though in that same segment, he did throw out that maybe stars were living creatures, and I was like, Jimmy, we are of similar mind. That's a crazy statement.
Okay.
And I love you for making it. He was like, when he was on radio and he was like, now stars may be living beings. I was like, namaste. Mm-hmm. You're a good man. But I feel like everyone's missed the boat on what this could be about, including most of the church, like St. Augustine. Here's me and St. Augustine. We're going to fight.
Okay.
He had the same idea. He was like, how could they possibly do anything? And the stars, and if they did, then that would negate human free will. This was St. Augustine's being against it.
Okay.
He said, if the stars control our lives, then free will is not there. And he was a big free will guy. Okay.
I think it's a jump to say that there is information coming from the movement of the stars to the stars control our lives and order human events.
I agree.
There's somewhere there's a middle position.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. But a lot of the early church people, well, not early, let's say middle time church people, because astrology really got the hammer of the church in about the Middle Ages.
Is there a correlation causation problem in here somewhere?
Probably.
Okay.
There's a correlation causation problem in every moment of my life.
All right.
But okay. So, but here's the thing: it is not that the stars in heaven are influencing you.
Okay.
That's not how astrology works in my schema here.
Okay.
It is rather to return to the beginning because it's all connected and this was all carefully planned out by our genius planning.
Okay.
It is rather that there is one pattern going on in the cosmos. There's one logos. There's one cosmic divine dance. Mm-hmm. And the stars are merely the highest visible manifestation of it. Okay. Does that make sense? So, like, if you imagine God, he's playing a musical thing of the cosmos, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to know what movement of the song is coming. Mm-hmm. You just look up at the stars like, oh, the stars are doing that. Okay. Right? It's not that the stars are influencing us. It's that the same God influencing the stars is also influencing us. And he's not incoherent. He's doing the same thing in the sky as he is down here. As above, so below, / let your will be done on earth as is in heaven. Jesus is praying that as above, so below will be the case. Okay. Right? Yeah. So let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, which means the sky. It's not like some...
So the same creator God who ordered and predestined the events of our lives also ordered and predestined the movements of the stars.
And he did so in a coherent manner. It's not like they're not playing Bach and down here we're playing Taylor Swift. Although we're trying as hard as we can to do that. Yeah. No, he ordered the heavens to play a certain a certain song, and he
Okay.
ordered the earth to play the same song in a minor key.
Okay.
Right? And so when you look up at the stars and you say, and again, here's some nonsense that I don't understand. Venus is in the house of Aquarius, and therefore, that's how that sort of thing could have a therefore.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense? Because the same, like let's say the stars are in the romance phase, right? To use a weird example,
right?
Then that could mean that more people on Earth are influenced in a romantic manner, because the same divine dance is playing up there as it is down here. It's not that the stars are influencing us,
right?
It's that we're observing the influence of God through the stars.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's why this is self-consistent with divination, because the same idea applies. Because what does all divination have in common? Whether it's geomancy, observing birds in the sky, cutting up a goat and looking at its entrails.
Back up a second.
My favorite.
Back up.
Yes. Backing up.
Okay, what is divination?
Divination is the attempt, here's my definition, is the attempt to discern the will of God or the divine will at a given moment. Not necessarily the attempt to tell the future, although perhaps, I suppose.
Okay.
But just like if you have a question like, should I take this job in Siberia or no? And then someone would go and like read a deck of cards to determine if this was the will of God. That would be a thing of divination. I don't endorse doing that because that's a pretty trivial manner.
Well, the New Testament doesn't ever recommend when one comes to making life choices or whatever.
Except in the case of the apostles making a very big decision about who should replace Judas.
That's true. Granted.
Right? So maybe it does. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Okay. But I mean, I'm kind of the, pray and seek wise counsel are your two big. I mean, absent clear. Not the same thing. Absent clear.
I'm not explaining how it's the same thing.
Because one arises. Your stuff arises from creation, and what I'm talking about arises from the indwelling of the Holy Spirit and participation in the visible church.
Which is another way of saying from creation.
No.
The visible church also
from the parts of creation that are already the first first parts of the resurrection.
Maybe. So here's the thing that all divination has in common, though. It's the same. This is my genius movement.
Okay.
This is when I figured it out. I was like, aha! I figured, because this is why astrology is connected to divination and why they're basically the same thing. Because again, it's not that the stars are doing a thing and then you're just observing it and saying that applies to me.
Right.
So here's the implicit idea in that is that there is a logos or a Tao or whatever you want to call it that is ordering the universe. And so what is divination? What does all of it have in common? Whether it's cutting up the goat, like I said, which is the best way, observing birds, throwing dice. It all has in common the idea of you create chaos and allow the logos that is present to impose its order upon it.
Okay.
That make any sense?
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just don't see a compelling argument.
Okay. But just hear me out. All right. So, like if you ever seen the thing where they put like dust or sand on a speaker and they play the song and then it makes these patterns?
Super cool.
That's the same idea. You create chaos, and then like the logos is the divine song, and the idea is that the logos is then going to imprint upon the chaos you've created its pattern.
Okay.
Same exact principle.
So then, how do you get from pattern of sand or pattern of goat entrails to, I should marry Sue Ellen over here?
Right. That's why I don't know. I don't know to what level of specificity this goes. I'm just laying out a theory.
Okay.
How it works.
So maybe it works on sort of a human events epochal sort of scale.
Maybe it does work on like I don't know. But I'm just saying this is how it could work. Is the same idea of if you have matter and then a logos, a pattern, a spirit, the sound is imposed upon it, it will take that form.
Okay.
Okay. Same thing. So go ahead.
I think we've skipped over a key point here.
Yeah. Okay.
In the logic, and that is, does it work? Because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, Sumo is trying to do the maps thing of we're going to take all things out there. We're going to pull out the things that are true and good and return them to the dominion of the church.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're trying to do here. But we haven't yet identified a good and true thing in astrology and divination that I can perceive.
Well, yes, but okay. I'm just laying out the theory so that you can do the experiment.
Oh, so you want me to do this? Okay.
I mean, so our listeners,
Yeah.
Look, yeah. No, but I'm just saying, like, it has scriptural support, right? They would do this to make big decisions. So
right. No, there's the whole
of
signs and seasons, the star. I mean, that's a thing that I need an answer for and don't have.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to provide you a theory of how it might be.
Okay, and so now in this theory, we go and test it.
Right. Okay. So
I feel super in danger. We're doing this.
It's okay. There's lots of grace involved.
Okay.
This is how I live my life. I go and do things and just say, it's probably covered under grace.
Right. Okay.
So look. So if you introduce the chaos, you roll the dice, you throw them in the throne, you cast the lots.
Okay.
Look at the tea leaves falling, you throw rockets and birds and see how they fly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The idea that the pattern of the universe is going to impose itself upon the falling of the tea leaves in your cup is the same idea that the pattern of the universe is going to impose the movement on the patterns of the heavens.
Okay.
It's the same idea.
Okay.
Just different ways of viewing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you were a sufficiently wise man that had investigated this a lot, you might be able to look at the way tea leaves fall in a cup, or look at the way the stars are moving in the heavens and say, you know what, Jesus has been born. We need to go over to Nazareth. Let's follow that particular star. Right?
Okay. Yep.
Right. And again, I'm not a skilled astrologer or geomancer.
Okay.
If I was a RPG character, my geomancy skill level would be a novice.
Okay.
I've done so little geomancy that it is laughable. The only thing I've ever done is douse for stuff, and I was successful at that.
Oh, okay.
Oddly. Not even water. I doused for like an object in a house, and I found it instantly. I still haven't figured out how that worked.
Okay.
But it did work. And so that is, again, it's this. That's why it ties it, because it's this fractal nature of the universe, which I think you gotta. That makes so much sense of God, and like what's going on, that it's weird that it hasn't been incorporated. Like when what's his name came up with the Mandelbrot set, because it wasn't Mandelbrot, because it was named for Mandelbrot by this French guy whose name I never remembered, because Mandelbrot was the father of fractal geometry, and his name means almond bread, and the great mystic said everything is of burnt almonds, which is a connection. But anyway.
Wait, what?
I know. That's the sort of thing you get into.
Okay.
But when you understand the fractal nature of reality, that things repeat at scales. It's all octaves, right? We have a set of notes and we play them on Earth, but that same set of notes at a higher scale is played in heaven. And that same set of notes at a lower scale is played in the animal kingdom. And that same set of notes at another lower scale is played in the plant kingdom.
Okay.
Right? When you get that into your thinking, all of these things start to come together. And it's like, oh, I could see then how the apostles were like, hey, how do we know what God wants? Let's roll some dice. And then make a big, and the Coptic church still chooses the Coptic Pope, which is / the Black Pope, which no one ever thinks about.
Okay.
Because he's almost always a black dude. Is they cast lots. They elect some candidates and they put them in a bowl and they get a local blind child from the village to pull one out. And that's how you determine who the Pope is. Right. It's the same thing. It's like you introduce chaos and you trust that the logos, which orders the chaos, which brings the chaos into order, will select the right pattern.
Interesting.
Right? And that's how all of this works. And that's why things like tarot cards or whatever can function without recourse to demons. They may also function with recourse to demons.
Right.
And that's the trouble, because you can invoke lots of different things through lots of different means.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to the local metaphysical shop, as I have done, because I have one, you will find a lot of people there that will try to light a candle and some sage. Again, they're using your herbalism thing against us.
Yep.
And they will try to invoke the spirits as they do their tarot reading.
Okay. Right.
That's when you got to go, no.
Okay.
Right. You don't want to invoke any of this that you get around someone and like, now let's invoke some spirits. You're like, no.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But I'm trying to lay out a way that this actually works on a completely natural level.
Instead of invoking a spirit to tell us something, we are seeking the writing of God upon His creation with in His.
It's literally the writing on the wall with the finger.
Okay.
It's like, listen, the finger of God is writing in the heavens, and He's telling us what's going on, and the finger of God is writing in the way the dice fall.
Right.
And this doesn't negate human free will, because the song is playing, and you can choose to play in the same key or not.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And just like if music is playing, you may be. This is my answer to Augustine, who was against free will.
Mm-hmm.
Who thought that astrology implied an absence of free will, like if it was a
right.
If music is playing and you hear it, you're moved. You are influenced to dance in a certain way, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Right. So the stars, or whatever. There may be this influence that is evident in the stars or in the falling tea leaves or in the cut up goat that you feel an impulse to move along with it, but you don't have to, and you can dance a totally different dance if you don't like that song.
Okay.
Right. So that's my basic outline that people need to be aware of how astrology. This is why you all need to go out and figure out your zodiac sign.
No. So, okay, here's the thing. This zodiac thing seems entirely arbitrary, and it's just we slapped this template on it. So, okay, for example, let's make it practical. I read an article about how the star Betelgeuse has dimmed significantly, and that it may, explode.
Right.
And we would see this incredible moon-like light show in the sky for several months as the star dissipates into the universe.
Right.
So if that were to happen, how does one look at that and say, okay, that's a sign for something, I don't know what it is?
Right. That's where I wish I had more knowledge to give you.
Okay.
I don't know. Like I say, I'm not a practicing astrologer.
Right.
I maybe should become one. But this is also my warning to people, is that a lot of astrology that you see bandied about does not come from any legitimate school of thought about the matter. It's just someone trying to swindle you out of your money.
Okay.
That's a problem, right?
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that in theory it couldn't be real.
That doesn't just because people are swindling doesn't make the heavens meaningless.
Right.
The movements of the heavens are not necessarily meaningless.
That was my intro into this, is because I would see people that would talk about it, and that, Christians and both Christians and secular people like, well, the stars are just up there and they don't mean a thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, clearly that's wrong. Just on an intuitive level, I was like, clearly the stars are not a meaningless thing. And it's not, and they mean more than just like, ooh, look how big God is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not God's modus operandi. He puts meaning in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that alone made me question this whole. That's how I got on this thing of like, could it have some stuff to it? It's not all demons, though it. All right, so to sum up, it's not all demons, though it could be demons. So watch out for demons. But remember that. But remember that there might be a completely non-demonic, natural, based on this fractal view of the universe, reason that such things may make sense. And if you've ever. So again, if you've ever like looked at a horoscope and it turned out that was pretty predictive, that is fine. That fits within the Christian mindset. If you have this idea, like, because sometimes it does happen. Some people are pretty good at, like my Aunt Judy. She got a lot of problems, but she fancies herself a palm reader.
Okay.
/ fortune teller.
Okay.
I don't know I haven't looked into that at all. I don't know. I'm not casting it one way or the other.
Okay.
But all I know is she has a lot of people that tell her that what she says actually is true. It comes out. Right.
Okay.
Is she using it by the power of demons? I don't know. Is she using it by the power of some other intuition about these patterns that she may just have, just being more intuitive than other people?
Right.
I don't know. But I could see how both could be true. And so you can explore these things without the fear that you're going to go down Aleister Crowley's path, right?
Right. And there's also a path that I think a lot of people go down with this stuff of just like crap psychology, where the stars, it's like the stars are telling you that you're a really special person, and you're just really talented, and people don't understand that, but one day they will. Yeah. One day the world's going to know how special you are.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of it, there's a lot of scapegoating that goes on with it. Like, I have a decision I need to make, but I don't want to make the wrong one. Therefore, I'll throw it off on this thing. And then if it goes wrong, it's not my fault. There are a lot of it's used for that. Don't use it for that. Although in the Bible, they decided which goat was the scapegoat by casting lots. So maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe do it for that. I don't.
Right.
But that's one of the things. It's like, if you can't make a decision, you've got a complicated decision. You don't know what to do. Maybe just cast some lots. Maybe just go with what it is, and then that will be your decision-making process, and maybe it'll turn out fine. Now, Maps is not responsible for any horrible decisions that are made via your novice.
Right. Well, the first appeal should be Scripture, and then wise counsel. I feel like that's still nothing we've said negates that. Right.
Well, this is what I talked about earlier, being same thing. You could say, because like some people will be like, well, how does God speak to you? It's not by casting lots, but like, through other people.
Right.
However, that's sort of like offloading the unpredictable results of a dice throw to the unpredictable results of what a person that isn't you will say.
Not necessarily.
No, you could view it that way.
Because you're the same guy that like sanctification of a human being is, getting your different parts harmonized and therefore in another way of saying that would be being conformed to the image and likeness of Christ. Right. And so somebody that has apparently farther along on that than myself,
right,
would be able to give me good advice. / another way of saying that being more in tune with the fractal nature of the universe.
Right. So what I'm saying, they're just a better 8-ball.
A better 8-ball. Okay. No, because
they land right side up, more in tune with the cosmos more often. If you're more whole.
Okay. So we're not saying that the wise godly man is like flipping over an 8-ball. What we're saying is, if the 8-ball works, looking at the 8-ball is sort of like talking to a wise godly man. Is that what you're just saying?
No. I'm just saying no. I'm saying that if this idea that the Tao or the logo. In Chinese, it says in the beginning was the word, which was the logos in the John. In the Chinese, it says in the beginning was the Tao. Because the Tao idea is the same as the logos idea.
C.S. Lewis was into this, wasn't he?
Yeah. Because Lao Tzu wrote some very interesting things that sound very proto-Christian. The great Tao flows everywhere from the left into the right. It loves and nourishes all things, but does not lord it over them. And when merits are accomplished, it lays no claim. Which is very similar to this idea of logos.
Okay.
So if there's a Tao, if there's a logos, and you introduce chaos,
But
right?
the logos and the Tau, I feel like it's important to point out, a Christian view of the logos and Tau would say that it is not a thing unto itself, but it is the creative character of the Creator God that is evident in his work.
Well, yeah, except that Christ is the Logos incarnate. So in some ways,
well,
right.
Okay. I mean, I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive.
And while we're on that subject, brief aside, the fractal view of the world makes the incarnation make not only total sense but seem inevitable. It's like if there's these patterns that repeat at different scales, then at some point the fullness of the pattern, God himself, the fullness of the pattern would repeat on a smaller scale, on the human scale.
Ah, right? Okay.
Right. And so he's the same pattern that orders the entire cosmos is present in one individual, which is exactly fractal. That's why every time I come to this, it's like, it makes so much sense of everything. It brings everything together. Right. And that's also why John can say, in him, all things live, move, and have their being. All things hold together because they're all of the same pattern. This is also why Christ can say, I am in you, you are in me, because we are all holding together by this divine logos pattern, which tells like atoms how to work and, all this stuff. And so at every level you go, there is Christ, because Christ is the distillation of the fractal geometry of the universe at the individual level. Right. And that's what that could mean. It all makes sense.
I mean, the argument, it does have a nice, compelling. The deal is, I got to cut through all the accumulated crap of paganism, and that's a big ask.
It is a big ask, but remember, paganism is the second Old Testament. I don't know who said that first. It wasn't me, but it's true.
Paganism is the second Old Testament.
So you have the Old Testament, which gives you the New Testament, right? But also, so much of our thought processes are from pagan roots. I mean, most notably, all of Western thought and theology is based on Aristotle and Socrates and Plato, who were pagan philosophers. And they started the whole thing of how we systematize this stuff.
Right.
Christmas, so much Easter, many of our rituals. And that's not bad, because what you do when you encounter something pagan is you don't destroy it, you baptize it.
Okay.
Right. Like that's the proper way to go forward. It's like, well, like, we want to cut down this tree and put it in our house. It's like, fine, water, right? And now it's holy, because that's the way God operates. God, it's not so much destruction unless something is just completely irredeemable,
right?
But it's baptism, and that's what I'm trying to. We're gonna baptize the astrology.
Yeah, at some point you gotta
the NEETs and the NIMBYs and the truckers.
As long as we can still kill all the Canaanites.
Yes, who are kangaroos.
Kangaroos.
Every time I hear the word Canaanite, before they finish the last of it, they go Cana. I think they're gonna say kangaroo.
Okay.
And I always like, I can't avoid hearing kangaroo every time someone starts Cana.
I mean, that's weird, but okay.
I know. But every time I read that, I'm like, kangaroo.
Right.
But yeah, so everyone go out, get your horoscope, get your tarot cards.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No. But I'm just saying, you can approach this stuff from a way that isn't.
I don't know. Like,
you can baptize all of it.
Yeah. I like the idea that we have an orderly creator God that made everything, and everything has purpose and meaning and thought put into it. Right. And there should be information that we can derive from that at any scale.
Right.
I like that. I have no idea what the action item is for the segment. That's why we can't seem to end the segment. But I don't know that I don't know that I could offer one.
I can offer one. Try a small experiment.
Okay.
I am at base, though I am against all lab coats. I am at base a scientist. And so just do something simple. God will not be mad at you. Like, should I come up with some dumb decision that you just don't want to make? It doesn't have big life-altering consequences, you know? Like, but it's something that you're having trouble deciding on, and just cast some lots for it.
Okay.
Just see how it turns out. If it works out good, then maybe you'll get into this. This will become clearer to you. Christianity does not make sense in theory; it only makes sense in practice.
Interesting.
Right? You have to practice it.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying that casting lots is necessarily practicing Christianity. I'm just saying, look, Peter and them did it, so it's probably okay.
I mean, that's a compelling argument. They
just got done being with Jesus and watching him go up into the sky, and they're like, hey, time to cast some lots.
So, okay, what if I go turn this around here?
Uh-huh.
I have a problem. I go seek the wise counsel on what to do. Wise counsel tells me do A. I don't want to do A. So then I go cast lots until I get B, and then I do B. Mm-hmm. It seems like a problem to me.
Yes, you can. That would be called loading the deck.
Okay.
Right? So if you want to, that's an improper way to do it, I'm pretty sure. It's like just keep doing it till you get the answer you want.
Okay.
You've already made your decision, and now you're just trying to validate it.
Ah.
Right.
So some self-awareness is required here.
Yeah, as it is in I was going to say in all things, but not really.
So maybe start it with, like, if you're having trouble picking a paint color.
Yeah.
For your bedroom.
Yeah.
And and you're arguing it over with your wife, like, no, I want this one. And we say, okay, let's cast lots to choose the paint color.
Maybe say a little prayer. Say, God, please guide these lots.
Yeah.
And you get your box of lots.
Uh-huh.
And you shake them up.
Yep.
And you look inside, and you see that you see the way the goat trails are laying, and then you're like, aha.
So then how do I know whether it worked or not?
Well, just if you're happy with the paint color, if it worked out.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I thought you were going to ask, how do I read a goat entrail? And I don't know.
I feel like I can only do this for things that my pastor would be annoyed if I asked him about.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But I think
it's like, don't ask me about paint color smokestack. Come on.
Well, I'm busy.
Like,
in any life, there's going to come some things which people just can't give you the right answer.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, hey, Pastor Jim, should I take a job in Australia? And they're like, I don't know, man. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's things that there's no like moral answer to the question. It's just like
there's no biblical mandate on what you should do.
Right. Like you can't cast lots and say, should I murder Tim?
And you've done
yes.
And you've done your pro con list. My wife is big on pro con list, which when we've done it, I've found it very helpful. But your pro con list is like perfectly balanced between the two options.
I never make those though.
Really? You should try it.
Because I think it's again, Martin Luther said reason is the devil's whore, and he was correct on every count about that. Because every decision comes down to a hunch, unless you're casting about it. Because you could go on gathering data about a question forever and always refining but at some point you just have a gut feeling like, well, this is enough. Mm-hmm. I'll go with what I think now. And you usually subconsciously stop gathering data and stop making pro cons when you've waited to decide that you want to happen more. So I don't trust any of those things. I think every decision is basically just a gut reaction.
Maybe, but if you make the pro con list, you can go forward with a little confidence that you give it some thought.
But why do you feel the need to?
You've considered the third order.
Why do you feel the need to justify your decisions with thought? See, it's all sort of just self-aggrandizing, I feel. It's like, oh, I thought about it, and my thinking is so good that I made the right decision.
Right.
So maybe casting lots is the more humble option.
Maybe it is.
I don't know.
I think with that, we probably we could probably wrap the show. Can I end this with a fun quote?
You can.
Okay.
And I want everyone to remember, don't like go pray into demons. I'm not endorsing it.
Don't do it.
Right.
Demons are bad.
But we are going to take back tarot cards from Aleister Crowley. on my white chariot horse.
I'm not so sure about that.
I know, but we're gonna take back everything. But continue.
Okay, so our quote of the day is from E.B. White, author of Charlotte's Web. And he received a letter from a Mr. Adams, who was some sort of government functionary. And he replies, "Dear Mr. Adams, thanks for your letter inviting me to join the Committee of the Arts and Sciences for Eisenhower. I must decline for secret reasons. Sincerely, E.B. White."
Yes!
So
I must also decline for secret reasons.
All of you this week, here's your action item. You can decline something for secret reasons.
Yeah, if you ever ask me anything, I will decline for secret.
There you go.
I decline for secret reasons.
All right, enjoyed it.
All right,
we'll see you next week, Sumo.
Go forth, NIMBY. Go forth, truckers. Prepare ye the way of astrology.
If you're a trucker, contact us. We want to talk to you. We have secret information to transmit.
And then when you ask, we'll say, I did deny you.
Yeah, for secret reasons.
All right. Peace out.
Blah, 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 blah.